Eric here, product specialist for TOA Electronics, and your host to the podcast Sound Supply, releasing every single week. That's on Monday evenings, giving you guys the most up-to-date information on commercial AV. You can find us on YouTube, Anchor, LinkedIn, and even our Facebook page. Excuse me, guys. Check us out. Thank you for attending. Stay tuned. We're about to get started. All right, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our August webinar, all on performance audio systems. This is titled Safety and Expansion for the Educational Facilities, Part 2, focusing on sound solutions for universities, and higher education. We're going to get into it today. We have multiple colleagues joining us. We have Ian, we have Dan, and we have our new addition to our webinar team, Andy. We'll get into those guys in just a moment. All right, so today, collectively, we'll answer one key question. How do we design and build systems that are up to date for the changing world of higher education? And what resources, products, TOA focused, and services do we offer to ensure the creation of the evolved classroom? Because we know today that things are changing rapidly. We want to make sure you guys are prepared and equipped to be able to handle your customers effectively. If you guys don't know me, my name is Eric Huber. I'm a product specialist here at TOA Electronics. I help out with the webinars. I am on the phones. I do a lot of different things. I also do a podcast every single week that is released on Mondays at 8 p.m. Eastern to all of our social media channels. Be on the lookout for those as well. And those are all relevant topics based on commercial AV that we talk about on a day-to-day basis. All right, so today's going to be very simple. We're going to hear from our panelists. I'm going to ask them questions. We're going to discuss, and then we'll end this up with a Q&A. Hopefully you guys have some questions for us at the end of this, and we'll be happy to answer those. So we want to make sure we leave you guys with one key focus here after we discuss everything. And that is the procedures to take in making university-style communication systems more effective, more efficient. Obviously, it could be upscaling, downscaling, and making things tie together and communicate effectively. And then we'll review multiple TOA products to see where you may be able to improve the functionality and dependability by using those products. We're also going to be talking about 6 key products when we're discussing these topics. Any of the guys can bring these in. We have our M864D, our D5000, our D2008, HX5, HX7, SR series, the list goes on. We'll talk about those as well as we dive into this. And then we're going to ask another question, and that is the evolution of commercial AV in these universities, in these higher education systems, and where it's going. You know, obviously we can't predict the future, but we see trends going on every single day, and things are definitely changing. So we have, for example, we'll cover applications such as large lecture halls, sporting venues, outdoor stadiums, indoor stadiums, multi-purpose rooms. These are larger type spaces designed for pro audio style installations. Could be distributed audio or long throw type audio. And then we'll be talking about issues perhaps that maybe Dan or Ian have acquired from talking to customers out there in the field, and how TOA can actually meet those needs and meet those goals and be effective for a solution. We'll work around budgetary constraints, time constraints. These are all things that are project-based that Dan can touch on, and perhaps Ian. And how we can make things cost-effective. So we do take those things into account, and they're very critical when designing these systems, especially in higher education where budgeting, could be a huge factor. And then finally, we'll walk through a TOA design, the services there. Andy can also touch on this. And then how we actually go from start to finish, and how we gain that information from our customers, work with you guys, and make sure they're getting the right equipment for their needs. All right, let's introduce the panelists. We have Dan Shore. Dan is our head of engineering. Dan, can you say hi?
Hi.
There's Dan. Ian, down in sunny South Florida. What's going on, man?
Hey, hey, hey.
There's Ian. And then our new inductee to the Webinar Hall of Fame, we have Andy. Welcome, Andy.
Morning, good morning.
There he is. Andy's joining us from our NJ office. All right, so let's start here. One of the biggest buzzwords that we've been hearing here in commercial AV and at TOA is the terminology or the phrase disruptive technology. All right. As we move into this new normal, this new way of working, this new way of commercializing, we're seeing higher education evolving in a way that has forced commercial AV integrators to reimagine successful design. This could be, multiple locations, remote locations, smaller campuses, larger campuses. It goes on and on. We need to understand these customers and where they're going. Gone are the days of just creating a drop and go paging system or vice versa. Now it's about the digital realm, networking AV, audio over IP, technology that's designed to work and grow around a client and around a customer. And the flexibility of those systems is what is needed to thrive in this industry. All right. So let's start with a conversation about a broader topic, and then we'll move into more specific areas. Ian, let's begin with you. Yeah. Ian, what's different, or let's say what stayed the same, or how have higher education needs changed, during 2020 and 2021?
Well, I think we're all pretty familiar with the capabilities for internet-based Zoom and GoToMeeting type of scenarios into the classroom. We've certainly seen that quite a lot. But I think we're also finding on the general bell and paging types of scheduling systems, far more interconnectivity into sound systems that have already been deployed in various areas. So one thing that seems to be coming up from several different clients right now is the ability to tie that paging system into a pro or commercial type of sound system, whether that be in a sports area or a theatrical area within a school campus now, right? So you still have this overarching desire to make sure that security-enabled features are prevalent. And that's a difficult ask for a lot of products out there. If you look at most traditional wireless microphone, wired microphone mixing systems, you're not going to easily tie a priority type of an emergency feed in there, TOA's got some fantastic solutions to be able to do that. So that's one of the areas that I think we're, outside of that classroom sort of new normal that we're now in, is making sure that these campuses are all interconnected, not just the primary paging systems, but reaching out into these other sound systems and making sure that they can all be tied in.
Very cool, very cool. And Dan, from an engineering perspective, are you seeing the same thing, or maybe something that Ian didn't touch on?
Well, back when I was going to school, it was usually drums and smoke signals. These days, I think most campus environments, all the way from smaller school districts to large universities, are going with emergency notification systems that provide a wide range of notification, including cell phone and various forms of text messaging. Video displays are being placed around as opposed to scrolling lights, and they're being used to notify people immediately as to what's going on. I think that's the paradigm change from in the last 10 years, 10, 15 years, changing from just alert tones to everybody gets all the information immediately on that.
Yeah, you mentioned the phones, especially with what's happened in terms of a touchless type solution. Everybody has their own personal device, so getting a notification on one's device like that, and we've gotten calls, text to audio or the other way around, but that demand is obviously increasing. Okay, cool.
Yep.
Andy, welcome in, man.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you for having me over.
All right, Andy, from a let's bring PSG here involved, and I work with you as well. What are some of the issues, or rather the challenges, that you encounter when you talk to customers on the phone? Based on what Ian and Dan just spoke about, maybe something has come up that you can recall, and also based on like what's changing. So maybe new trends that you've gotten phone calls on, or something that's come up frequently. Anything actually that customers are talking about currently.
Well, a lot of it now is going into a virtual classrooms. Like Dan said and Ian said, that you have people that are on their phones, basically trying to cover what's going on in schools. My daughter, for example, is going through that at the moment too. So being able to, you see a lot of over the wire broadcasting, where you have a teacher in one location trying to broadcast to different students all over different houses, different places. And being able to tie that in together, I think we're doing an exceptional job regarding a lot of our equipment now. EVs, they have LAN access. We have the microphones now that are connected to different mixers that are able to broadcast over the wire to different places, different buildings. So the challenges really have been just being able to get that information over from one location to another, and instantly at that, making sure that it happens quick. We're getting emergency broadcasts over our phones, as we were told. Text messages. You get the phone every once in a while, something's going on. You get the phone, just starts going crazy and beeping and telling, hey, this is national weather emergency. Something's going on over here. Look out for that. So it's a lot of over the wire broadcasting now, not like the drum and smoke days, where it's if you don't see the signal, you're out of sight, out of mind. You're gonna get the message nowadays.
I gotcha. Hey, Andy, have you been noticing more calls for example, let's talk about a large college campus that has multiple buildings, and they need to send, and I've been listening to calls lately, and I've heard you talking to customers about sending audio over very long distances. Maybe it's a mile, right? Maybe it's 2 miles, maybe it's between two campuses or two buildings itself. But do you see an increase in people wanting to send audio signals over further distances, perhaps?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, I had somebody the other day that was working on a warehouse for a very famous distributor nowadays, and that warehouse was miles of wires that they had to run, and there was 2 different warehouse locations few blocks away from each other. So being able to be at one location and transmit to two different places at the same time, or depending which one you need to send audio to, has been a big thing. So LAN access has been a major player, especially in the last 2 years, now that people are not working next to each other, they're working at different places, and they still have to get that communication and the message across. Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
So that would be a product like our NX series, right? NX 100, 300s for sending broadcast quality audio over the internet. And it's interesting because our box is basically a sender or a receiver, depending on which place you deploy the unit. And I certainly have seen this from the standpoint of college campuses, absolutely, but also for business, right? Where you've got a corporate location across the road, so to speak, from a large shopping mall, where they simply want to update their audio notification based on an emergency situation or simply based on a new promotion that might be getting run.
Yep, absolutely. That and the EV. The EV is a big player in that game too, because you got the EV where you dispatch a message, you're gone, and just let it run and do what it's got to do. So yeah, that's the EV is another one that goes hand in hand with the NXs. I've been seeing a lot of that lately as well. Yeah.
Yep.
That would be the EV 700 there, Dan.
EV 700s. Yeah.
One of the other exciting things that we've got going in technology that's been around for a little while, but to get true broadcast quality audio over SIP telephone lines. Broadcast studios have been using it for years. They've been using ISDN lines. Now with some of the codecs that are out there, like the Opus codec for SIP, you can get full range audio streaming basically anywhere you want it. It's amazing technology.
Awesome. Good stuff, guys. All right, rolling through. All right, so today's audiovisual technology has totally changed the way that teachers are teaching their students and how their students are receiving that information. Obviously, if you have kids, you can totally relate. I don't have any kids, but I do see my younger cousin going through this. I'm sure Andy, you see it with your daughter. It's completely changed, and teachers and students are finding it difficult to make that as natural as possible when it comes to using technology to communicate and to actually interact. And that's where we kind of shine with our collaboration series and things, where we take into account that we want to make sure that meeting virtually is as natural as possible, right? And you sound as good as possible, and you look as good as possible. These are all things that we want to ensure that are definitely present during these meetings, because we don't want to feel like robots. But education AV integration is supporting hundreds of rooms within a building across the campus. Since we're talking about universities, we'll stick to those. This technology in higher education is providing the seamless experience, the one button press now to meet with anybody across campus instead of physically walking to, Central Square, wherever you need to be back in the day. But it's pretty amazing what you can get done by literally clicking a button. And we're doing it right now, right? Ian's in South Florida, Dan's in Chicago, I'm over in Jersey, Andy's right over here. Wherever we could do it. It's very possible. Just looking back 10 or 15 years, I mean, it's completely changed. Even though the technology existed, so much more people are now adapting it and accepting it for what it is, and realizing that, yes, anything can be done from anywhere in the world. And as time goes on, the experience gets better and better and better, whether that be the audio quality, the video quality. Dan mentioned the codecs for the audio transmission involving network broadcasting. Things are just, 4K video, this natural experience where we're all meeting somewhere in a room and we can just sit back and not have to worry about talking into a microphone. Little things like that go a long way to make this, as I keep saying the word natural, but that's really what we're striving for. Ian, let's get back to you.
One thing I did want to add to that also is the fact that we're making it user-friendly by having these GUIs that are being able to accommodate and help people kind of understand how to make all the blending possible.
Yeah, the end user experience, the user experience is getting easier and easier and easier. Even though behind the scenes, technology is improving, right? It's getting better and better, but for the user, it's getting much simpler. And that's why I use that theory of just pressing a button, literally.
Right.
Ian, let's get over to you, man. What questions are you asking integrators? So when you're talking to integrators out there in the field during the design phase to ensure that they have the right TOA products for the right applications? And we talk about this all the time here at TOA. More specifically, how are you designing systems? And then, Dan can obviously jump in here if you'd like, that work for both the classroom, and you mentioned possible larger entertainment sporting type venues.
Well, some of the initial questions that'll always come up is a matter of the existing infrastructure that we're going to tie into or not tie into. Right? Are we pulling all fresh cable, or are we trying to piggyback on some existing wiring harnesses that are already in place? If we're talking about a space, let's just say, for instance, that wireless microphones are deployed, have those wireless microphones been identified as far as what frequencies they're currently on? Because they may be out of a legal range from the FCC changes that have gone on. So where a client may not have considered their need for an updated wireless microphone system, it may really become a prerequisite, and that has got to be brought up to the end user, who only 4 years ago may have purchased a wireless microphone system and is sadly finding out now that it's not in place.
Right.
As far as some of the interactive type of products we were talking about, for instance, like our Nubia or collaboration product, there's a little bit more to it, as you point out, right? It's looks just like a seamless sound bar. You turn it on and it operates, but the integrator does need to take into consideration the room parameters. How wide is the room? How deep is the room? Because you need to set that beam tracking array microphone up correctly for it to work correctly. Right. And then, of course, what codec is being utilized? Is it a codec like a Polycom that's an external device that we're going to be wiring up into our external audio ins and outs? Or is it something that's going to be PC-based and we're connecting up via USB? And then do we or do we not have to manage the echo cancellation factors? So all of this has got to be looked at in advance and during the deployment so that the end user experience can be as seamless as we like. And when you talk about having a 1-button or 2-button type of experience, that also means that we've had to do all of the work in advance to make sure that folks like Crestron and Extron and other partners have got the control system capabilities to make that 1-button work.
There you go. Dan, let's have you weigh in on this.
Sure.
Going back to, well, Ian, great stuff, but thinking of like a multi-purpose system in terms of something having the functionality, let's say in a classroom, but also being able to work in a larger entertainment venue. You can think of any ideas, maybe a large multi-purpose space where somebody could be teaching a class in there, but there could be a 20,000 person basketball game going on.
Oh yeah, hopefully not in the same space.
But when you're doing these like multi-purpose spaces, what are some questions that you're asking these customers?
Well, I think Ian pretty much covered it. The most important thing is how does the end user intend to use it? What is their description of it? And you need to get that in writing before you start your design.
There you go.
TOA has some tools that fit into these situations where you have a large number of rooms, large number of microphones, and you need to be able to configure them as you need. The D5000 Series mixer allows you to do virtually any combination of inputs and outputs up to 128 between the frames on this. So it's very It's a good size system for medium to medium large applications, and it can be scaled because it is a modular system, like most of our components on these larger systems. So it uses the same modules as our D901. It's just a great piece. It communicates via CoverNet between modules, so you can put frames where you need them. It has specific mixing surfaces that you can use to be able to control the amount of access the end user has to the mixing process. So it's very handy. One of the things I wanted to touch on higher education that really hasn't changed much over all these years is the campuses are typically laid out or as groups of lecture halls. They'll do a building, say, some of the more efficient ones are a circular building or octagonal building where the audiovisual brains are in the center of the building. And there's an IT member on staff, an NAV member on staff during these during lecture times to make sure that the lectures go forward, because if the lecture stops because the projector isn't working, that's serious class time that people have paid good money for. So one of the pieces of equipment that always goes in those systems is an intercom going from the room back to the main brains of the operation with two-way hands-free communication. So it's a combination of that communication technology and then the networking of all the components on the same network, so that the AV technician has the ability to determine whether or not your projector bulb is burned out or whether you've actually not turned on the amplifier in the room. So, but the intercom portion of that is something that's generally not included in those network systems. So that's a TOA piece that adds a great bit of usability to those systems.
Awesome. I want to touch on another product that, well, Ian brought up wireless, and I did mention it in the beginning of this. And Ian, you mentioned you had a couple customers that bought a band that actually got outdated by the FCC or whatever that commission is. In terms of our D5000 series, our digital series,
right?
What are some benefits with that guy, as perhaps opposed to our analog units or our older 5000 series?
Well, Dan might be able to get a little bit deeper into the technical aspects of it, or certainly, or Andy as well, as to what makes a digital system better than an analog system. But in layman terms, you're able to manage the frequency allocation quite a bit tighter. So if you think about a frequency and having some guard bands in between those frequencies so that you don't have any sort of interruption from one frequency bleeding into another, for instance, we're able to maximize the number of available frequencies utilizing a digital system. So that certainly helps, right? In an area where maybe you could support 4 microphones or 6 microphones on an analog, maybe we can do 8 to 12. We still have to be very careful about doing an analysis of the area to make sure we know exactly what bands to utilize.
Absolutely.
But in particular for our D5000, there's 2 additional features that I really happen to like about D5000. Number one is there is automatically already loaded into the receiver EQ settings for the specific microphone that you're going to work with.
Yes.
So if it's our handheld, or if it's a head-worn, or if it's a lavalier, you can choose the specific microphone you're utilizing, and the unit's characteristics are automatically EQ'd for that mic. The second factor is something that, sadly, here again, a lot of people overlook, which is open microphones in an open sound system, depending on the design of the room, could have feedback issues. And we have automatic feedback suppression built into those receivers. So if a system designer has overlooked feedback suppression to a certain degree, they've got a great fallback position within our D5000 systems to take care of that. So here again, the maximization of frequency allocation, the built-in equalization capabilities, and the automatic feedback suppression, to me, are three of the most important factors that go into it from a technical standpoint.
Yeah.
I will say that I've gotten feedback from the field as well at simply the speed at which our units can be deployed. And that's because we really have a very innovative method of rack mounting our units together that instead of some other companies that will take anywhere from 12 to 16 micro screws that always fall down in the carpet and you never find them again, we utilize some easy to use slots. So the receiver just slots into the holder, and it cuts down on deployment of a pair of wireless microphones by easily 20 minutes or longer.
Cool. And yeah, Dan, go ahead.
Sorry, there are a few things on wireless systems that have changed recently. For those of you who have wireless systems and deal with wireless systems on a regular basis, it used to be possible to go to 3 or 4 different white space databases and be able to pick the available frequencies in your area given a zip code. That's no longer the case because the FCC is not providing updated information to these databases. And as of yesterday, when I checked, they are still not online. So if you are employing wireless systems and want to, or say a dealer or a university, or you're doing shows out there, one of the best investments that you can make right now is a spectrum analyzer. The D5000 wireless has one of those built in, along with a walking mode where you can walk the corners of the room and see where the dropouts. But even if you don't have, and shame on you if you don't, if you don't have a WD5000, you need a radio receiver and something like Wind Radio to go out there and find possible offending frequencies in your area to let you know exactly where that's going to be. And there will not be a change on that in the near future. A little bit of good news on that. We have been allocating frequencies on 6 channels per megabyte band, and I'm butchering that right there. They're going to try and expand that up to 8. Both Sennheiser and Shure are pushing for that for both broadcast and shows, which they're both heavily involved in. So cool. There you
go. Andy, anything you want to add about the D5000?
Clearer audio, pretty much. That's what it all comes down to. Clearer audio, faster to get it, and ease of installation, being able to find the frequencies you need, not having to worry about any kind of feedback. So we're on it. I think we're on top of the game when it comes down to that.
Awesome, man. All right, guys. So it's our goal. Did somebody else want to say something?
Yeah, I did want to say there are a couple of other interesting things, tools in that D5000, probably not relative to higher ed, where funding might be a little bit greater, but maybe in the K-12 arena where funding can be quite a bit tighter, and maybe you're not working with as broad of a number of channels available on a mixing console. The ability to take the audio out from one of our receivers, loop it into a second receiver, and then take that audio out and then share a channel. You could end up getting 8 wireless microphone channels on only 4 audio mixer inputs. So you can save quite a bit there by using simply the volume dials at the front panel. I'm doing that to great effect right now with one of the largest school districts in the country. So that's another really nice factor. And I certainly don't want to overlook the fact that our wireless microphone systems are quite complete and do have the option of multiple input antenna combiners. So we're able to then, share 8 receivers through a couple of our antenna combiners out to 2 powered antennas remotely. We're doing that again to great effect in some gymnasiums where the equipment's got to be buried in a cinder block room where you would never get decent audio coverage between the cinder block wall and the rack chassis that all the equipment's in. It's absolutely essential to be able to bring that pair of antennas out. And then piggybacking on what Dan said, then the ability to actually put those units in walking mode and making sure that you've got just absolutely picture perfect audio quality from corner to corner to corner of a 120 foot by 120 foot gymnasium. It's very, very important before you walk off that, that client's facility, knowing that it's going to operate under any circumstance.
Yep.
Ian, excellent points. I didn't know you can route audio or chain audio between those units.
Yeah, sure can. Fantastic feature, actually.
Cool stuff. All right, guys, this last question is for you. That's our audience. We want to make sure we're providing you guys with useful information. To all the panelists, Ian, Dan, Andy, if you could name one top trend, and I'm sure you guys touched on this during this conversation, but if you could name something else or the top trend that you feel strongly about that's currently emerging in the world of higher education, and what should our audience be aware of as they discuss systems design with those clientele? Anybody can answer.
I'll start.
Yeah.
IoT, the Internet of Things.
There you go.
Everything that you see in a classroom or an electronic environment is going to have a web browser or some access in it. That's just the way it is.
Yep. Online communication. Yep.
And Andy, you agree with that?
Yeah, everything's online now. Everything's online. Absolutely, shopping online, meeting online. Everything's online. Everything's online.
Ian?
For me, it goes back to one of the first points that we had touched on, which is tying security systems into the audio systems throughout the entire facility, making sure that mass notification doesn't just come through large paging horns, but actually reaches right back into the classroom environments, right back into learning environments, right back into meeting spaces, any place where that message needs to be heard. So the ability to tie those emergency priority systems in, and we do an awful lot with priority paging in our systems, and we can make it really cost effective and really very simple to achieve that. A lot of folks just can't manage it.
Awesome. I agree with all three of you guys. I think this idea of tying everything together, and that could be over network, it more than likely will be, over the internet, as well as involving multiple types of systems, but being able to facilitate that entire thing from a one point of contact or a one centralized point of location on a simplified user interface is definitely where the trends are going. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much. Thank you, Ian. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Andy. Much appreciated. That's going to conclude. We just summarized, guys, what we think are the emerging trends going forward in the higher education systems, collegiate universities, secondary education, high schools, you name it. Things are changing. We're aware of that. We're here to help you guys out as you go through this and talk with your clients and with your integrators. We want to make sure that you're getting the right products. And if you guys absolutely have any questions, let us know and we will help you out. But before we do that, let's get into the Q&A, and we'll be right back to answer those questions. Hopefully you guys have lined up that chat for us. And we want to make sure that we answer those as soon as possible. All right, guys, so we'll just see you in a minute. Stay tuned. All right. Thank you, gentlemen. Let's get into the best part of today's webinar. That's right. It's question time. And we got some good questions already for you guys lined up here in the panel. Let me just make sure I got everything up here. I don't want to miss anything. We are good. Okay. Ian and Dan, the first one goes out to you guys. So we did not mention the HX7 and the HX5, right? I did say we were going to mention those and we didn't. So maybe Ian, I've seen some images of some cool projects regarding these guys that you've been involved in. Anything recent? Maybe you can tie these products into what we just spoke about when it comes to higher education. I see these in auditoriums. I see Jim doing designs all the time for gymnasiums and things like that, multi-purpose areas. Any feedback that you've gotten from your customers or your clients regarding the installation of these products that we should know about?
HX5 and HX7 have been adopted in so many different market sectors. Probably most popular, at least from what I see, in the house of worship market. Anywhere that you really would like to provide a great waveguide control over the throw of that speaker. So you're absolutely right. A gymnasium, and I just worked on an NCAA court, high school court, and also went with HX7s deployed, being able to really target the bleachers, just the stands. And of course, adding in subwoofers, right? There's nice matching subwoofers to go with HX5 and HX7s. So you can do a lot with them, and they're just very, very flexible speaker. And 4 speakers in a cluster, and you can tie 2 clusters together. So there are a lot of applications out there, but I think gymnasium is one that's come up the most for me, at least in higher ed.
Got it. Dan, anything you want to add to that?
Sure. Lecture halls are also a great application. Anywhere you've got multimedia presentation going along with a local speaker, depending on the size of the room or the application, HX5 or HX7. The advantage of the HX7 to the HX5 is it uses compression drivers for the high frequency, which gives it a longer throw. You can get more SPL out of it. And it's got a sub that's taken from the large SRA and SRC type line arrays. It's a very nice unit. So very flexible in installation, very small. And both of those units come in 4 packs. That's each group of 4 modules is 1 electrical unit. So you don't have to worry about buying individual speakers. And they're cost-effective way to great sounding audio in any of those situations.
Cool. Andy, anything you want to add?
Well, the fact that they also come in a WP, which means that you can add them, to outdoors and not have to worry about any kind of severe weather damage, anything like that. The terminals are able to handle any kind of, no, you're not going to put them out in direct rain, but hanging on the awning. So they're a real versatile type of speaker setup that can be used for multiple purposes. And like Ian said, matching them up with a FP150 or 120 just to give you that lower frequency boost, can't go wrong.
Yeah,
sounds great. And Eric, I'm sure you are aware, right? Through PSG, through folks like Dan and Jim that can do the design work, they can create a design showing you what your coverage would look like at multiple angles of dispersion. So you can really model and show your end user exactly how those speakers are going to perform within that space.
Good point. And then Andy, great point as well. We make a lot of different models in a WP version, we call it, which are weatherproof models that can handle the elements up to a certain point. So be aware of that. They work great for those types of applications.
Dan should run a seminar on IPX ratings.
Yeah. Ian, another question here, going towards you. The M864D, another product that we didn't really discuss too much, another fantastic product. Yep. Any experiences recently with that guy out in the field?
One of the real nice functions of 864 is you're looking at a more traditional production level mixing console, but you've got these additional outputs that can allow you to do room combining, room sharing, zoning, remote volume controls, much like you would do with one of our paging amplifiers. So there are some great functions in there that that come in really handy. And honestly, I would tie that in with the right set of amplifiers out to a set of HX5s or HX7s. It would make the perfect complete system from your input mixing console right out to the speakers.
I can also add that usually in a production environment, in a medium to large size theater, you've got a stage manager position with a stage manager mixer. That's a great solution for that. Low profile, rack mounted, easily controllable. So it's a very flexible piece of gear.
Beautiful. Dan, let me point this one at you. The D5008. Anything? Let's just briefly talk about that. Any recent projects that guy has actually been integrated with or in D5008?
Recent?
Negative.
I think the last project I put that in was in a hotel application, but it could just as easily be moved over into a higher education type application with up to 128 inputs or outputs, depending on how you configure it. Again, very flexible. I know the designer of the input module for that particular piece, the analog to digital, and it is a beautiful piece of work. It's a great sounding desk, 24-bit, 48K, just a nice piece of work. Controllable by TCP/IP or through the software. Just a very nice large format mixer.
Awesome. So if you guys didn't also know, we do make, and Dan mentioned these briefly, the SRC and SRA series array units. I know Andy and I don't get too many phone calls on these guys. But yeah, we make some pretty large array units that are designed for large applications. Dan or Ian, any experience with these guys that you can throw in? Maybe examples that you've seen in on college campuses or higher education?
Sure. You're talking about the SRH series?
Yes, correct.
Yeah. All right. So sometimes if you have a very tall Gothic style church with a peaked roof, and you're trying to get even intelligible sound to everybody in the church, you can always put speakers up at 35, 40 feet and try and reach out that 90 feet. But physics is not going to be on your side. The best way to get intelligible audio is to get the speaker close to the audience. With the SRH3 and SRH2, we can mount those inconspicuously and do a semi-distributed system, either down the wall or down posts on either side, and then cover, if there's a covered area on either side, which is typical, you can cover that with some of the architectural acoustics speakers or go with the H2s. But I've used that in two recent designs where they had large format horns and they wanted to get rid of them with something sleeker with a line array. And if you're going to spend $1.5 million, then yes, you can get a line array to do that. But if you have a budget in mind, the best idea is to get those speakers close to the speaker, and the SRH series is a great solution for that.
Cool.
And actually, even Dan, for smaller rooms, right? So you take a lecture hall at a university. It's also a very nice way to go. I mean, an HX5 is fantastic, and a lot of people like the look of that sort of larger line array. But if you're looking for a more discrete set of speakers to be deployed for a lecture hall, you've got a closer proximity, and they really do disappear quite nicely into the environment.
Good point, Ian. Awesome. Next question, guys. So going back to, let's think about college campuses or universities that are maybe thinking about a change or optimizing systems currently to the way students are interacting with their teachers or their colleagues, whatever those changes may be. What are some risks for a university that does not see a need of or does not see the need to optimize currently and kind of just sits back and lets let things happen and they're just happy with the old school technique? What are some risks that they might be facing long term or down the road as things begin to change? Anybody?
Well, clearly everybody out there right now is a shopper, right? Folks are shopping for their university experience. There are certain levels of expectations. And honestly, I've seen down here, at least in South Florida, every major university from FIU, FAU, University of Miami, Barry University, making very high investments in,
Right.
Their display technology, their microphone, their ability to be picked up in that room intelligibly, and of course, the sound reinforcement within all those rooms. They're making those investments. If they don't, what's the ramifications?
Less enrollment.
They'll be shopped to go. Students will want to go somewhere where they can enjoy that audio visual experience to maximize their learning experience.
Yep.
It's a great selling point. You walk into a campus and you see beautiful monitors and this high, technology going on and great audio systems. People would want to go there.
Right down to the garden speaker, right? Put the garden speakers right down that
in the quad. All over the quad.
Absolutely.
All right, guys. I think I got one or two more here. Bear with me here. Bear with me. Is there a connectivity, and I think we mentioned this briefly, is there a connectivity between IP systems, IP audio systems? Yeah, you guys can talk about the horn that we have. It could be an SP80 type solution. Is there a connection between our IP systems and performance audio systems? So, I guess think low impedance, something like that on that aspect. How do those tie in together, or can they tie in together? I think Ian, you mentioned something briefly.
Well, I mean, the one nice thing about IP systems is that with an IP system, you can have the speaker at a pretty distant location and through network be able to get your message across, be it parking lots, be it a auditorium, be it outside at a football field. You don't have to worry so much about the amplifiers and the wire runs and everything else. So you have PoE. The audio is going to travel over network, like in our IP81 SC15, and be able to broadcast the audio without all the heavy duty equipment that goes along with it sometimes that you have to, rack mount, store somewhere. So in a sense, that's a really nice feature.
Yeah, or it could be a job for like an NX where they need to get audio over to the football field, I don't know, over IP or something like that, and be able to broadcast an emergency announcement, whatever that might be.
Right, it's both ways, right?
Yep.
Send it and receive it, and then transmit it out for broadcast out over your speakers, and do it all over a network. You can reach out and touch every individual endpoint. Set up your remote messaging on a horn or on a series of speakers, or we do things the traditional way on 70 volt daisy chain of speaker systems, and just have an IP endpoint right out there in front of the 70 volt system. Lots of ways to integrate IP through TOA solutions right now.
There you go. All right, guys. I think we're done. If you guys want to add anything, now's the time. Ian, Dan, or Andy, we good? All right, guys.
Just waiting for that lecture Dan's going to do on IPX weatherproof ratings.
Coming shortly.
I myself am IP66.
Okay.
All right, guys. Well, thanks again for joining us. Whomever is here, we really appreciate you guys showing up. Many thanks. And again, if you guys want us to talk about anything at all, let us know in the comments. Reach out to us. Call any one of us. We all have phones. We have email addresses. Reach out to us, and we'll be happy to help. Be on the lookout again every Monday. I have my podcast, which we just released this past Monday. Of course, I have a brand new shirt on. It's a Star Wars shirt. And you guys are Star Wars fans. Yeah, so every Monday at 8:00, we talk about it's more of a relaxed type conversation about anything going on IP, commercial AV wise. And the webinar is second to last Wednesday of the month is what we're doing.
Hey, and let's not leave out one thing that
Yes,
I
Andy.
forget to mention. We do offer the best warranty in the business at the moment.
Oh, dude.
Let's not leave that out. We back up our stuff. 5 years.
5-year warranty on A stock and B stock.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Which is excellent. Andy, thank you for adding that. All right, guys, we will see you next time. Thanks again, Dan, Ian, and Andy. We appreciate it. I appreciate you guys as always. Take care of yourselves. Enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll see you next time, guys. Take care.
Bye-bye.